A very good morning to you, everyone. Thank you, as always, so very much for staying with us here on Global Television. This is how we welcome you to this very, very special edition of the program. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And I am Jumai Manson. It's great to be here. Good morning, Uyi.
Good morning, Jumai. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy Eid al-Fitr, of course. It's Salah.
It is. That's the reason I had to emphasize how special this edition of the program
is. Yes, it is.
Because we had hoped all of this was going to happen yesterday, but apparently the moon had not been sighted. But today it is all official now.
Yes, it is.
It continues very interestingly into the weekend.
Yes, it does.
So our Muslim brothers and sisters, not just in Nigeria, but across the world, will have to take a chill pill, sort of.
Yes.
And relax. On my way to work this morning, you could notice the visible, dryness of some kind, traffic-wise, on the roads.
Yes.
That shows to you that Salah is highly commemorated.
Yes,
even though we say this is small Salah, but there's nothing small about it.
There's nothing small about it. There's nothing small about it.
Right.
Our Muslim brothers and sisters, just the Ramadan fast, it's over and all of that. So it's a time of coming out and thanking God proper that you could actually do this, some 29, some 30 days, and you could do this in good health, and you're happy. It's a time to celebrate. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is. But at the keynote there is just thanking God for a successful Ramadan fast, and that brotherhood that comes with it, that unity that comes with it, with loved ones, family, and friends. It goes a long way.
It does, of course. I was talking with a senior colleague who, by the way, is a Muslim, and he told me, he said, time flies. I said, imagine the other day we were talking about ringing in the beginning of the Ramadan.
Exactly.
And then Ramadan kicked off officially. It looks like it was never going to end. And today is a full cycle.
Yes, it is.
All right. And then you're wondering how things really move. Move really fast. The other time was Christmas as well. But now we moved away from that. This is March almost coming to an end, which means that we must also keep track of time as we make progress.
Very important.
But I think we should take our time to also talk about the significance of this period, the Ramadan, of course, the fast, which is very essential, one of the pillars. And then you also talk about how this links with the way we treat each other as a country, how we provide leadership from bottom to top, and how we galvanize our communities. I saw a video yesterday. In fact, we did a story on it. The Vice President Kashif Shettima in Borno, where, of course, he had gone to commiserate with the people in that state who lost loved ones, commiserate with the government, and of course also spend time with those who got injured, who are now hospitalized, and things like that. And following that, I also watched the Chief of Defense Staff, General Oluyede, who was talking about how that during Ramadan, there's a pattern. There has always been a spike in attacks. And he was saying that we must now own the fight against insecurity. And it also reminds me of how that the people behind these attacks, they really don't care that it's a holy month. In fact, if anything, they exploit it to perpetrate these attacks.
Yes,
and I find consolation too, knowing that security agencies, the police, and all of that, including, of course, the army, have assured that, look, we are not just only dispersing men in tens of thousands, we are also taking out time to ensure that we make the most of the intel we have in terms of ensuring that we are at least a step ahead of these criminal elements.
Very important. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because these criminal elements always make the most of festivities. It's very important. Of course, when you take it back, how this has been a reoccurrence, and you just wonder, and I'm glad that the military are now, they're now becoming aware, and they understand that this is how these individuals, these miscreants in society, this is how they strike, causing injury to lives and, destroying properties worth millions of naira. So at the same time, I'm glad that the military, all hands are on deck now in trying to curb this menace of insecurity. It's just unfortunate that civilians who have no clue, they're just like what happened in Maiduguri. It's very sad, because I know that general area, post office that leads close to the market, the teaching hospital there, Maiduguri, just a straight road to the rest of Maiduguri. And then you just wonder, these are individuals who have come together, and because that arena is very busy. You can actually, there's the woman that does pap, kose, that's akara and all of that.
The bean cake.
The bean cake.
Right.
And people are there to break their fast and all of that. And then this sort of thing happens. It's just very sad. And I just pray that we nip insecurity in the bud as soon as possible, because a lot of innocent Nigerians, people who just went on an errand, who just met friends. Okay, let's have a iftar here, and the next thing you know,
it ends for them.
It ends for them. It's really, really sad. It's very sad. Very sad. It's very heartbreaking. It's really sad. It really is sad.
And here's also wishing those who have lost their dear ones this period and even before some sort of consolation, and wishing that you find solace, knowing that, it was no fault of yours, it was not a choice you made, and we hope that as a country we are able to win this war early enough, because we can't continue like this. It's telling a very bad story about us as a country, right? Incidentally, that's a very focal point lined up today on Global Morning. We're looking at the data, because data is very important if you must have conversations around insecurity, and of course, most importantly, be able to win this war as it stands right now. It's been 17 years and counting, and here we still are. All right, we're taking a break, everyone. The rest of Global Morning returns shortly. Do stay. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe. We understand President Bola Tinubu is back home now after spending a couple of days in the United Kingdom, engaging at the very highest level in the country. First off, he had met with King Charles III and Queen Consort Camilla to, again, if you like, re-energize the relations, trade, diplomatic and cultural between Nigeria and the UK. But yesterday, he had a special moment discussing very salient issues with the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, where we now understand that some $764 million deal between the UK and Nigeria has been signed, and the President himself witnessed that process. Many analysts say is a big moment for Nigeria, redefining the relations across board between Nigeria and her former colonial master. But on that front, the conversation has been, if you like, not very straightforward, because there are people, Juma, who believe that the UK is trying to do, if you like, they're trying to renew, for want of better words, this sort of exploitation they've been doing of Nigeria. Because for some of these analysts, their thinking is that the United Kingdom is afraid, quote unquote, that a country like China is now finding a very strong foothold in Nigeria. Now, that fear stems from realizing, short-term and long-term, that if that continues to be the case, it means they will be displaced ultimately from Nigeria. So it's not going to be China that would take their place. And to ensure that doesn't happen, the British monarch and, of course, the British government had to make this quick call. Because there have been questions the last few days as to how is it that for, almost 40 years, this has been some 37 years or so, that this is the first time that a Nigerian leader, if you like, president, is being invited on the first, in the first place. And second, giving this kind of, if you like, grand reception, because you needed to see how the president and his wife, First Lady Oluremi, were received in London. It was grand in capital letters.
Yes, it was.
It was grand in every sense of the word. So that's one of the issues we'll be raising with our guests this morning, to talk about how this puts Nigeria first. Because whether you like it or not, at this point in time, given geopolitics, given global realities, Nigeria cannot afford to play second fiddle or to play catch up. We've got to come to a point where we say it has to be value for value.
It has to.
So if we have to relate with other countries, we have to engage with other nations. It has to be such that Nigeria must be seen to be benefiting in very specific ways.
Yes, very important that you raised that issue. And looking at it, and Nigerians, we should understand that we have what they want at the back of their heads. We have what they want, and at the same time, we have more leverage, because we can actually sit on a round table and say, hey, this is it. We're putting our best foot forward, and we're putting our foot down to actually have this negotiation with these international countries. And like you said, it has to be beneficial. It's very important. And I think the fear, a lot of people there's so many allegations, so many quote and unquote, people are saying that, like you mentioned, they have a grip on us, Nigeria. They had it there, of course, they are colonial masters, and, we have mineral resources, and what's happening in the United Kingdom at the moment, a lot of issues when it comes to unemployment, poverty rates, inflation, and all the high rise in the United Kingdom. So now, I think as a nation, we have to now understand that these individuals were our colonial masters. They are not anymore. So we have a say now. We can actually put our foot down and say, okay, this is what it is. This is what it is. Whatever we're going to do, is it beneficial to Nigeria? Is it beneficial to Nigerians? Is it going to take us for, the project, the millions of euros in which they are pumping into the tin can, Lagos Island? That's a step in the right direction. I think it will bring more leverage for us. But at the same time, I think we have to be careful and to be very sensitive when we come to, partnerships with international foreign countries, because the truth is there's always something that is very, very beneficial to them than to us. So we have to tread softly and know that we have to put our foot down and do the needful. It's very important, because it's really dicey. It's very dicey, I must say.
Well, we understand part of the deal that when I say we, I'm talking about Nigeria and the
United
Kingdom have now signed is basically about reforms in our ports, particularly the Tinkan port, which is very crucial.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to see how these whole reforms process will play out. Because whether you like it or not, reforms are not just supposed to be on paper. We must see how they affect the lives of Juma and we must be able to measure, put a finger on what exactly their impact are. But in all of this, for many Nigerians, first of all, we have established that it is with taxpayers' money that this trip has been executed. I mean, you saw the number of delegates. I mean, those who went with the president, his entourage was quite huge. So that also is an indicator as to the amount of resources that had been poured into this. So it's only commonsensical that Nigeria should get value in return.
Yes, it's very important. And funny enough, I don't know whether it was just me or I saw Tiwa Savage there.
Well, I don't think she joined the president from Nigeria. I think they were part of course, Tiwa Savage is Nigerian British. And she was there as part of the creative community. We had some from sports. I mean, she's from entertainment, basically. We had some from the academia, others from other professions. Of course, there were politicians, there were technocrats. You know, the president is the rallying point, so he brings all of them with him, especially on an occasion such as this.
I know we had the African, there was something that Nigerians did and that culture or whatever, so maybe it's part of it.
It's part of it, yeah. But, you know, when the king was also, I mean, during his, the ceremony that brought him in as king, I mean, his coronation, Tiwa Savage did a very special performance, and I could see with the tete-a-tete that the king was having with the queen consort, that he was a bit blown away by, I mean, who is this, delectable lady doing this performance? So I think Tiwa Savage knows London like the back of her hand, so to say.
She does, okay. Well, that's an edge for Nigeria.
Yes, it is. And it's a reminder that we are growing in leap and bound as a country, but we must be able to now appropriate all of these, if you like, competitive advantages that we have as a country to move things beyond where they are today. But on the home front, insecurity is a real concern.
Yes, it is.
Because even, I mean, again, with regards to this trip, there are people who had said, look, the president had no business embarking on this trip, even though it had already been scheduled long before now. But then on the flip side, analysts and even citizens say that, look, if the president had halted, if he had cancelled or put off the trip, it would give the impression to these criminals that they had won.
Yes.
And if that's the case, it becomes more of a psychological warfare than a military one, as we're supposed to see.
Very true.
So
I agree.
That school of thought believes the president did the right thing, and if that situation, God forbid, was to play out again, that should be the exact action to take under such circumstance. After all, he has, if you like, full complements of military, framework in place.
Yes.
I mean, he has all the service chiefs on the ground.
Exactly.
What else is the president supposed to be doing?
Exactly.
And they understand their remits. They know the work that's called out for them. So if they are not able to do that because the president is 6 hours away by a flight, then it means it's a clear case of incompetence on their part.
Exactly. I was going to mention that. So, like I said, he was really sympathetic when it comes to the issue that happened in Borno State, which Maiduguri, of course, and he wasn't quiet about it. And you know, the deployment of the service chiefs from his front. Our guest we had yesterday, the barrister that came up and says it's the same old. Of course, late President Muhammadu Buhari, he did the same thing and said all service chiefs to move to the northeastern part of Nigeria, of course, to try and curb this menace. What they did do, let's not. For me, I do not like to compare. These were different service chiefs at that era. So now let us see what these particular service chiefs are bringing to the table. Let's see what they bring differently. I don't think we should be too quick to judge. Let's allow. They just got to the northeastern part of Nigeria. Let us see what they can do. So far, we've heard from the Chief of Defense Staff, Oluyede. He has said that some of these terrorists are from within. And of course, and there are some states who are financing this particular, that understands the route of the states and all of that encompass. So at the same time, I think we should just sit back and see what they can do in trying to curb this menace of insecurity that is breathing on our necks. This is 17 years. It's a long time. That was a child. 18 years a child will be a young adult. So of course, this is something that is serious. And let's not forget that a lot of people have gone down because of this. People have been displaced, lives have been lost, fathers, mothers, children. You know, it takes a toll on a family. A man who lived his whole life in a place, has established himself as a business owner, doing very well for himself, and the next thing you know, with a twinkle of an eye, a snap of a finger, the individual is displaced. That is something you don't really see that coming. It just happens. That's life happens, and you know, this insecurity is something that it's a bone in our throats, and by the grace of God, it will be yanked off with immediate effect. So let's see.
Well, that's a fine way to put it. Let's take a break now, everyone. It's a Friday. Last ordinarily should have been working day of the week, but it's Salah and it's a public holiday. Time to join Ramsey Enoch Agbo on Heart to Heart Inspirational.
Well, this is Heart to Heart Inspirational, and of course, we need to let ourselves know that, all right, if life were easy, strength would be unnecessary. Do you get that? If life was an easy thing, we don't need strength now. We don't even need mental calculation. We don't even need to do anything because life is easy. Everything is just going smooth. You just sit down, relax, whatever you want to do, you do. My mother would say, if money were leaves on the tree that you can plug anytime. But it's not like that. Life is not easy, and that is why strength is required. Anyone that tells you life is easy, then that person is not doing you well. No matter how rich your parents are, ask them, is life easy? They will let you know the truth. And the earlier you realize this, the better. So that you don't lag behind. So that you don't just live a careless life. So that you don't live your life like there is no tomorrow. So that tomorrow don't take you unaware, like some civil servants who will never think about retirement until retirement meets them face to face. This is something of 35 years. What preparation have you done? Depending on pension, waiting for pension? All right. Well, with what's happening right now in our own country, I think a lot of people are becoming wiser because pension itself, well, I don't know who is doing who strong thing, but then I just want us to know that life is not as easy as we think. Whoever that is putting it forward to you that life is easy, I don't think that person is doing you any good. Life is easy. With faith, life is easy. I'm not displacing the place of ease. Life is easy if you know what to do. Yeah, life is easy if you know what to do. Then strength is also required. But if pressure didn't exist, a power wouldn't develop. Because what you're facing right now is not evidence of weakness. It's not because you're weak. Yes, it's not because you're weak. Sometimes these things happen. It's happening to other people, just that they are not voicing out the way you are voicing it out. They are not complaining the way you are complaining. Sometimes complaint don't even solve the problem. Because what you're facing right now is not an evidence of weakness. It is a proof of capacity. Your ability to subdue whatever the situation is what matters. All right? Some people, I don't want to say, but then I know of business owners, especially people who take risk in business. Sometimes if you know the kind of money they lose, you will be shocked. Sometimes we even insult them. But the day they hit it with that risk, oh my God, they can make double of what they've lost. All right? So it takes a man with a large heart, a heart of capacity, someone who has capacity, all right, to make such moves. So sometimes what's happening to you and what you're doing is not a sign of weakness, it's not a sign of foolishness, but it's a proof that you have capacity, and it's a proof that you are growing, and it's a proof that you're ready to change level, and it's a proof that you are tired of the status quo. You want a change of level. You want it to be better than what it is right now. Life, as a matter of fact, tests us not to break us, but to reveal us. Pressure exposes the strength you didn't know you have. I tell you the truth, pressure exposes the strength you never knew existed on your inside. So sometimes your ability to overcome pressure sometimes matters. And that's why when you're going to look for a job in some other places, you hear, all right, do you work under pressure? Sometimes it happens. You don't beg for it to happen sometimes, but it happens. Even at home, in your family, it happens. Between you and your siblings, sometimes you see some things, some kind of pressure comes. All right? Those pressures exposes your strength. Your ability to handle those pressure, those times is what matters. It makes you. The weight you are carrying build your muscle in your character. That is true. What am I saying? I'm trying to let you know that the weight you are carrying sometimes is building your muscle in your character. Storms don't last forever. That reminds me of one of Kirk Franklin's songs that we used to sing those days. Storms don't last always. All right? Storms will come, whether you like it or not. In as much as life is there, storms must come, but it doesn't last and it doesn't exist all the time. But resilient people do exist, irrespective of the kind of storm they have been faced with. You've survived things that once made you cry. Am I telling your mind? Am I saying the truth? Am I saying your mind? Yes. Those things that made you cry sometimes back, you survived it. By the time those things are happening again, you already have the muscle to withstand it. You've overcome moments you thought would end your life. Some things happen and you say, whoa, some people think they are finished. Maybe a grace available for this moment. That same strength is still inside of you. There are strength on your inside that have not even manifested. All right. So when pressure comes in your business, in your family, in what you do, in your pursuit for success, don't allow yourself to be weighed down. Let me take gold, for instance. It's been refined by fire, not destroyed by fire. Any gold you see shining today, it went through a refining moment. What refines gold is fire. Fire. They put gold inside fire, heat it. It will be burning it. It's only God that knows what that gold will be saying. But after that moment, it comes out shining. And people will want to pay millions, billions to buy it. All right? That heat doesn't remove the gold. It removes the impurity, the dirt, the unpreparedness, the unreadiness. All right? The procrastinations. All right, the indiscipline, the misbehavior, the unreadiness is being removed by that fire. And you come out pure, you come out refined. Stop asking, why me? Sometimes, a lot of people like asking that question. Oh God, why me? Allah, why me? Oh, why me? Stop asking that question. Start asking, what is this building in me? What is this situation trying to bring out in me? Why did this thing happen to me? God, what are you saying? What is it for? What is it for? Sit down and think. Some people don't even have thinking moments. There are times that you need to shut the door. You need to off your phone. Sit down and think. Strategize. Distraction. I don't know, but a lot of distraction in this our generation, a lot of distraction in this our days, especially this age of internet. Yeah, a lot of people are doing well with the internet, but then there are times that you need to sit down and just you and you alone, you and your heart, and what you have conceived in your heart, that is in your head, boiling, how it's going to get into your hand. Sometimes you sing and ponder over it. All right? Trust your resilience. You have survived 100% of your worst days in the past. So what is left? These are the things you should be asking yourself. All right. So I want us to know that this moment will not defeat you. It will develop you. And it's all a matter of choice. You need to decide it. You need to want it. You need to live it. You need to behave it. It needs to be in your head after conceiving it in your heart so that it can enter your hands. Thank you very much. You are a success. going somewhere to happen. Recondition your heart, and your thinking cap should be on all the time. I'm Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.
All right, you're welcome back. Hope you were well inspired by the Heart to Heart inspirational by Ramsey Enoch Agbo. At about this time is the newspaper review segment, and we'll start with the first paper of the day. It's the Vanguard newspaper. Above the nameplate, it says Middle East, Nigeria records highest fuel price hike globally, and that's from reports, and you find that read on page 20. Now, below all of that, it says here, insecurity, local cooperation critical to ending insurgency, and that's from the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, and that read is on page 9. And on page 8 it says Tinubu Starmer signed 747 million euro deal to refurbish 2 major Nigerian ports, and the writer says, I found safety in UK during military era, and that's from Tinubu. And on page 8 it says here, APC government has failed Nigeria, now 4th global terror expenditure, and that's ADC, and that's on page 8. Now below the star story it says Middle East war, fresh fears of higher petrol price as crude hits $114 per barrel. And that's on page 5, and we have lots of riders here, and it reads, Iran threatens to destroy region's energy facilities if further attacked. U.S. may unsanction Iran oil already being shipped. Moves deploying thousands of troops to Tehran in next phase of war. 12 Arab Islamic states call on Iran to stop strikes. Saudi Arabia threatens military action. EU leaders urge U.S.-Iran ceasefire talks amid escalation. Now, it says here on the Vanguard, Happy Eid al-Fitr to all our readers, okay? And on page 10 it says, Lagos security agencies partner to curb road drainage, substance abuse. That's on page 10. And below all of that, it says, Eid al-Fitr, Tinubu, Akpabio, Governor, others facilitate Muslims, and that's on page 7. And on page 14, it says, Transport moguls shift focus on vehicle assembling. And basically, and of course, the Mr. and Mrs. column, please get yourself a read on the Vanguard newspaper, and those are the major headlines making round on the Vanguard newspaper. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues. And of course, next is This Day newspaper. Over to you, Ray.
All right, let's look at those headlines for you real quick now. The first one here, just about the name masts, it says, with attacks on energy facilities, Iran war enters new phase. Oil jumps above $119. Obviously, that's the international market price now, and it keeps going right through the roof. 3 writers with the headline, Iran attack wipes out 17% of Qatar's LNG capacity. Pentagon wants $200 billion more for ongoing war. 6 countries condemn attacks on Gulf energy in joint statements. All right, further down a little, it says, with one voice, leaders pray for Nigeria's security, sue for peace, unity at Eid al-Fitr. Then we have the star headline here that reads, Nigeria, UK sign £746 million deal to upgrade Apapa tin can ports. With again 5 riders, Tinubu says both nations must nurture trade economic relationship. At least £236 million contracts will go to British firms. British Steel to provide 120,000 tons of steel billet. Agreements aligns with drive to unlock maritime sector, says Oyetola. What's more, high-tech ITB to handle refurbishment job. Well, again, those are the basic highlights from the president's engagement in the UK on behalf of Nigeria, and those are your headlines from this day newspaper. Be sure to read up details for yourself this morning as we turn to the next one here, which is the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, now the Nigerian Tribune, thank you, Uyi. And above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune on page 6, it says here, Dangote NLNG, others account for 85% of LPG supply in February 2026. And here on page 3 says, barge operators lament over lack of berthing space at Apapa Port. And it says here, breathing space. And on page 5, it says here on page 5, Northern Ice, 30 trillion naira windfall as oil prices surge over $115 per barrel. And that's a lot. It's going to take a toll in Nigeria.
Across the world.
Across the world. And the Star Story reads, reps warn of imminent petrol scarcity, price hike over Dangote supply gaps. And there are 2 riders there. It says, seeks urgent intervention of Presidential Technical Committee on Crude for Fuel Initiative. Cost of goods set to rise as manufacturers face higher energy input cost. And on page 2, it says, Tinubu governance, others facilitate Muslims at Eid al-Fitr. And on page 2, it says, Nigerians' 4th global terror ranking confirms Tinubu's failure. ADC, that's from Obi. And on the foot of the Nigerian Tribune, it says, Nigeria, Sharma holds talks as Nigeria-UK seals $746 million port deal. And there are 2 riders there on page 11. It says, both countries sign agreements to boost border security, migration visas. And it says, agree on deal targeting failed asylum seekers, criminals. And it says we must straighten mutually beneficial economic cooperation, and that's sustainable. And the health column says number of children you have may influence lifespan, and that's study. Okay. I always love that the health column. We always see something different when it comes to these issues. All right, next is the Daily Monitor. Over to you now,
Thank you. All right, let's take a look at those headlines for you. First of all, above the nameplate, 4 headlines. Top right corner with a picture of President Bola Tinubu. Nigeria UK signed £747 million deal to refurbish 2 major ports. Obviously, that's a syndicated story across papers today. How federal government can tackle security challenge, PDP. Retired police officers, protesters to storm a presidential villa Tuesday. Local cooperation critical to ending insurgency. That's credited to the Chief of Defense Staff. Incidentally, the story has a picture of General Christopher Musa retired as against General Olufemi Oluyede. Well, talk to the Daily Monitor about that. Details are on page 4, by the way. All right, one with a picture of 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi. It reads, Obi knocks federal government as Nigeria ranks 4th in global terror deaths. Of course, as expected, opposition will ride on the wave of these to throw jibes at the government of the day. And then the Star headline has a kicker: Sultan to military, take the war to terrorists, don't wait for attacks. Exactly, be proactive, all right? Be a step ahead of them at least. With two riders, says Maiduguri bombings un-Islamic should not be associated with teachings of Islam. Urges government to summon political will to stamp out criminal elements across Nigeria. And that's a challenge for the Tinubu administration because the constitution is very clear. In chapter 2, it says the very reason, I'm paraphrasing, that government exists in the first place is to guarantee security of lives and property.
Yes.
And this moment in our history calls for that. Nigeria seeks partnership with British to curb security challenges, as credited to President Tinubu. The two writers tell us, says, despite challenges, Nigerian trained doctors, nurses, indispensable in UK's NHS. That goes without saying. The results are clear. Visitors from Nigeria spent £178 million in 2024, says King Charles. Again, that's a highlight of how much we impact economies across the world, including in the United Kingdom. Well, those are all for your headlines from the Daily Monitor this morning. Look at details for yourself when you pick up a copy of the paper today. The next point of call is the Punch newspaper.
All right, now the Punch newspaper, it says above the name plate, it says here, arms shortage undermines anti-terror war in Nigeria, Africa. And that you will find on page 27. And beside the nameplate, it says, Eid al-Fitr, Speaker, Governors preach unity, police strengthen surveillance. And that's on page 27. Now, the Star story reads, 2027 succession, firestorm in 10 states as governors exit nears. And the writer says, incumbent party in fighting religion, zoning was drive high, stocks political content, INEC deadline nears for party primaries. And beside that, on page 4 and 5, it says Delta teenager visiting friend shot dead in Lagos. And what he shot dead, was it a misfire? Was it what actually is called? What actually happened? You have to go over.
Was it the heat of the moment?
Was it the heat of the moment? So you have to get yourself a copy of the Punch and find out what that is all about. And on page 20, it says Nigeria spends 9 trillion naira importing petrol. And basically, those are all the major headlines on the Punch newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and well abreast with the major issues. Next, we have The Guardian. Over to you, Uyi.
All right, so let's begin with the Star headline on the front page of The Guardian, a newspaper for you this morning. Here it reads, opposition CSOs flee federal government over worst rating, 46% surge in killings. Above that, of course, that's the headline has a kicker, Global Terrorism Index. PDP reconciliation shaky despite renewed talks as divisions persist. Eid al-Fitr, Senate leaders preach peace, unity, compassion amid global tensions. House warns of imminent fuel price hike, scarcity. And then further down, of course, you have pictures highlighting the President's UK visit. Terrorism. CDS did not accuse Borno Yobe residents of complicity. I knew this was going to generate controversy, but what the man did say was that generally we must own the war against terror. We must see it as us, all of us, being part of it.
Our fight.
Yes, exactly. It's our fight, all right? But he particularly said that the bulk of the elements responsible are from Borno and Yobe, and as such the people should take responsibility and of course join hands with the military to ensure that we make this a once and for all fight. That's the point. The details on page 29 you can read for context and perspective. Nigeria UK seal deal on migration, border security, improved trade. That's quite timely. NRC rolls out special solar train services nationwide. You can read of those details on page 30. ADC faults ASU CSOs over silence on certificates forgery law. You find details on page 5. At Salah, Yewada Sule preach unity, sacrifice, compassion. Those two gentlemen, the governor of Nasarawa State and the national chairman of the ruling APC, with details on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper today. Well, those are your headlines from the Guardian. Next port of call is the Daily Sun newspaper.
All right, now the Daily Sun newspaper. Now beside the nameplate, it says, Ohaneze steps up fight to save Igbo language. Sponsor 100 youths in tech. And that is on page 37. Now below that it says PDP ADC hits FG Tinubu as Nigerian grabs 4th spot in global terror deaths. And that's not good at all, and that you will find on page 6. Now on page 6 again, where the star story is, it says Sultan charges military to take war to terrorist dens, and I completely agree. Urge soldiers to be proactive instead of being reactionary. And it says Nigeria bleeding, killings must stop, says NLC. And that's on page 6. And below the foot of the Daily Sun, it says FG UK OK 746 million euro for refurbishment of Lagos ports. And on page 8, it says Abia APC blast LP over attack on Senator Kalu. And on page 33 says Eid al-Fitri, Barao governors, Obi others call for continuous prayers for Nigeria. And on page 27 it says here Senate leader Bamidele urges overhaul of approach to insecurity, and the writer says calls for blend of kinetic, non-kinetic strategies. Okay. And basically, those are all the major headlines on the Daily Sun. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making rounds. Next, we have the Blueprint.
Incidentally, Blueprint happens to be our last paper this morning. Just above the nameplate, you have an editorial. It says Britain and Nigeria can build prosperity on shared trust. All right, part of the fallout from President Tinubu's visit. State visit. Tinubu reaffirms Nigeria-UK historic alliance, centuries-old ties. 3 writers telling us seeks stronger security cooperation, praises diaspora's impact, meets Prime Minister Starmer, witnesses £746 million Pulse deal signing. Visits crucial to nation's economic growth. That's according to Governor Diko Rada of Katsina State. Right. The right corner of the paper, we have a headline that says Federal Government, United Kingdom sign MOUs on migration, border security, business expansion. As we take it further down, Eid al-Fitri, Akpabio, Abbas, governors, others harp on prayers, unity, but they must also lead by example. All right. One writer with that headline, NRC deploys special train services, IBEDC issues safety advisory. The last one is UBA NITCOM deep in collaboration to unlock diasporal capital. Quite a step in the right direction. You'll find those details on page 25 of the Blueprint newspaper today. And that's how we call it a wrap on the newspaper review segment. On the program, a quick reminder that all of these headlines brought to you here on Global Morning are exactly as published by the respective publishers. Global Television, as a broadcast media outfit, or the team here on Global Morning does not in any way contribute to them. And we also encourage you to read up details for yourself so you can, stay ahead of fake news, misinformation, as well as disinformation. We're taking a break now. When we return, Ogochukwu Momono will be here with the social bars.
Our language, our vibrant culture and colorful tradition, our industrious and hospitable people. This is Nigeria, a nation that prides itself in abundant human and natural resources. From east to west, north to south, we sparkle, we shine, we have a common bond. Fellow Nigerians, let's do away with ethnic, religious and regional sentiments that divide us as a people. God has blessed us and empowered us to find strength in diversity. Let's make our faith and way of worship our source of unity as we build a nation that stays united. Nigeria, together today, together always. This is a public announcement brought to you by Global Television.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at issues making rounds on social media. So today we're taking this one because, of course, today is Eid Fitr. Pilgrim arrested for attempting to kill his sick father in Medina to secure paradise. An unidentified pilgrim has been arrested while trying to kill his sick dad in Medina so as to get him into paradise. The pilgrim was arrested in Saudi Arabia after he was seen attempting to strangle his sick father inside the Prophet's mosque in Medina, a city in Saudi Arabia. While being interrogated, the pilgrim told the police that he believed that if his dad died in the Holy Mosque, he would be guaranteed entry into paradise. The police arrested and detained the pilgrim for further investigation. Okay, now this is a bit confusing because why does his father say he's ready to go to paradise? Well, let's take a look at the video. Funny as this may seem, it's still not funny, honestly. I find it a bit funny, but it's not funny. It's not. You came there with your dad to pray. So why did he tell you anything? Did he tell you to kill him? And besides, if you do that and he goes to paradise, where are you going to? Well, let's take some comments from social media as regards this topic. And the first comment comes from EJ's Perfumes and More. And this person says, the police should have used a teaser on him instead of all the pulling and wasting of time. Yes, because he could have actually carried out his assignments if you don't get to use a very strong hold. All right, next comment is coming from Oludolapo, diction coach. And Oludolapo says, a little child was watching. I am so sad. Now, this is it. It's a big concern that a child there is watching. A child who also came to pray with their parents is watching. And this could lead to, a future reoccurrence if we don't work on it and also educate the public better. Well, I'm not alone in the studio. I have with me Uyi Agmofuile. Good morning, Uyi.
A very good morning to you, Ogochukwu. It's an amazing Friday, but with this year's story on Salad Day, I don't know what to say.
What am I driving at? Well, this story is all over social media. Everywhere you go on social media, you get to see this story. And people are just asking, this is something that everyone should be happy for. You're going to Medina, you're going to pray, it has been, the Ramadan period, and, you've been doing all of these prayers. So how come you want to destroy your prayers? Because I think if you carry out this kind of assignment, because according to him, he wants his father to go to paradise in peace and very fast. But his father didn't. I don't think there's any conversation there. What do you think?
Because if you brought your father there, one would have even thought that, well, you wanted him to maybe be spiritually connected, take his mind off his health challenges, exactly, reconnect with his creator, delve into that spiritual moment that is refreshing and things like that. And again, it raises question as to, was this the intention you had the whole time you left the house to Medina? It's a question that needs to be asked. Then there's also a concern around the young man's mental health. It's very important. Is it possible? Is it possible that he's overwhelmed, looking after a sick father? Maybe he's been doing it all by himself, no support from anyone. Maybe the cost of covering health bills is becoming sort of drowning for him, and he felt the easiest way to get this done was to just carve this path, so to say, to speed things up a little. Is that the possibility? It's also possible that he has been brainwashed, radicalized in some sense by some entity somewhere to say, look, if you do this and that, if you're able to strangle this man, snuff the life out of him, then he'll go to paradise as quickly as possible. Now, in some Western countries, one big conversation is whether people have the right to even take their own lives. Under circumstances where they are suffering from debilitating, life-threatening, terminal diseases. For example, somebody has been diagnosed by a certain kind of cancer, and doctors say this person has just 3 months to live or 6 months to live, as the case may be. Some of those persons feel, let's end it now rather than wait through the whole process. Now, there are laws in these countries that don't allow for that. So, in some of these countries in the global West, the conversation now is at the level of Parliament or Congress, if you like, to say, look, can Mr. Y, can Mrs. B take their own lives, even if they have just 2 weeks to die after it's their life? Don't they have the right? It's a debate that's ongoing now in some countries. So, how do you take your own father, biological father, to not just any other place, to Medina, to the Holy Land, and then you say you want to take his life? But again, somebody talked about using taser on him instead, which would have been easier, more convenient, and faster, and all of that. But at least we are grateful that his plan or his intention did not come to fruition.
Even though his plan did not come to fruition, hope the law is going to actually carry out its course, because if you let this man go back to his father, who knows what will happen the next day? And he could just lie about it and say, okay, I just came in and I saw my father dead, and nothing will still happen at the end of the day. You also mentioned his mental health. I think that's something they need to also look out for, and know if he's actually very, very stable, because all of this can be draining. You mentioned some other reasons why he could have actually carried out this assignment. Maybe he felt like, okay, he's sick, he has been carrying out the burden alone and all of that. It can actually be mentally draining when you get to do things like this. So if there's any way they can actually help him, so we don't get to see things like this happen anymore again. Of course, someone actually raised the concern, one of the comments, by pointing out a little child watching this incident. Yes, if you don't educate the public properly, we are going to have this reoccurrence. Like, we are going to see it again in the future, because this child will just think, okay, this man is trying to carry out this thing. Perhaps, okay, for the parents to go to paradise, and let me do that to my own father or my mother, so they can go to paradise. Maybe I'll get an award or something for it, but it's not right. It's not right. All right, thank you so much once again, Uyi, for your contribution to today's topic. And yes, it is Eid Fitr. This is all we have for you on Social Buzz on Global Morning. I am Ogoch Kumobno. Good morning once again, Nigeria and the rest of the world. Bye for now.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Our language, our vibrant culture and colorful tradition, our industrious and hospitable people. This is Nigeria, a nation that prides itself in abundant human and natural resources. From east to west, north to south, we sparkle, we shine, we have a common bond. Fellow Nigerians, let's do away with ethnic, religious and regional sentiments that divide us as a people. God has blessed us and empowered us to find strength in diversity. Let's make our faith and way of worship our source of unity as we build a nation that stays united. Nigeria, together today, together always. This is a public announcement brought to you by Global Television.
Let's get our first conversation on the road for you real quick now, everyone. Well, the issue of security or insecurity, depending on what the standpoint is, has been of a very particular concern for Nigeria and her neighbors over the years. For many people, 2009, sadly, very sadly, marked a turning point in this, if you like, evolution. Today, it is 2026, and it doesn't look like things are getting better in that regard. A few days ago, or at least the last few days, we're seeing back-to-back strikes in a place like Borno, particularly the very capital city of that state, Maiduguri, being hit by suicide bombers. And the impact it left in its wake is what that state, and indeed Nigeria, will require a long time to recover from. And add to that the reality that as it stands today, we have not won the war against terrorism of any kind, including banditry and kidnapping across this country. However, an index that has now been released ranking countries across the world in the light of insecurity shows that when it comes to terrorism, Nigeria ranks 4th, and in sub-Saharan Africa, we take the lead, which is not, of course, and obviously so, a good place to be. To help us beat all of this into context and perspectives, we're joined this morning by Emmanuel Ozoemena, policy consultant. I'd like to call you Ima. It's a Friday. Happy holiday to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
I hope
morning.
you're enjoying the holiday.
Yes. Where we are, Juma and I started our enjoyment a while ago.
Exactly. Good morning.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you for
morning.
being a part of Global Morning. Thank you for being
All
here.
right, perhaps we should start from looking at the historical background to this issue of insecurity. Because I know, for example, Maiduguri has always been more like the flashpoints, even though we know there has been a spread to other states, whether within the northeast, across the entire north, or in some part of the country. As it stands today, things are not looking good. We have even seen the governor, Professor Zulu, at some point express frustration, on multiple occasions, saying that, look, some local governments have been taken over by these terrorists. As a matter of fact, we need to see an increase in military presence across the states. What has been your thoughts?
I think when you talk about Maiduguri, if you follow the trajectory of terror in Nigeria, just cast your mind back to 2008. That's when it started. Even though Muhammad Yusuf, who is believed to be the founder of Boko Haram, comes from the northeast, but at a point he migrated to Kano. Remember, he was in Kano for quite a while. From Kano, they migrated to Bauchi. From Bauchi, back to Maiduguri. These records are there, and perhaps it was at Maiduguri, when they got back to Maiduguri, that it now became some sort of out of hand, you could say. And if you cast your mind back, when he was killed, there was a spike which looks like some sort of retaliation from his group, and under, I think, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, there was supposed to be a trial for those who were said to have killed him. They appeared in court a little bit, and before you know it, it ended till date. I think, if you ask me, Nigeria missed an opportunity at a point in terms of accountability. Because what lack of accountability does is that it helps to have a closure. Because we didn't have that closure at that time. There was a spike, and before you know it, 9/11 had happened. You had this Al-Qaeda at global level. I don't know, somehow they got involved with them, and it now had a global dimension. And here we are today. At this moment, if you count how many groups you have that have mutated over time, it's very difficult to keep a count. At the moment, we're now talking about the new one. Is it Lakarwa? Operating somewhere in Kwara, around Barutin Kayama. Barutin Kayama, Borgu, incidentally shares border with has an international border with Benin Republic.
Yes.
So on both sides of that border, you have Barubu people. They are there in Niki, Paraku, in Benin Republic. They are there. You have them in Kainji, you have them in Kayama, you have them in Barutin. So it's difficult, because part of the reason, if you look at this current report by on a terrorism index report 2006, there are two major factors that they had indicated. One is youth radicalization. That's one of the key issues coming up from that report. How do youth get radicalized? In fact, they did an analysis on youth radicalization in the West, talking about the Western Hemisphere, and the youth radicalization in Sub-Saharan Africa. So what are the factors that drives that youth radicalization? Most of the times I think we have shied away as a country from addressing some of the fundamental issues that drives this insurgency. I think that's where we are also as a country missing those key points where we should put some sort of a mark on. And then there's also the issue of border lines. I call it border fault lines. I mean, there's a national border boundary
commission.
No, National Border Communities Development Agency. So that agency, incidentally, I think I made an input into the coming of that agency. It was a member of National Assembly in House of Reps that I had consulted for. I mean, in 1999. He comes from Barutin Kayama Federal Constituency. So we're looking at, those communities are neglected. They had no access to infrastructure. They had no access to basic amenities. In fact, in Barutin or Kayama, they attend hospitals in Benin Republic because that's the closest. Because between Benin Republic and Ilorin is a long distance. So we thought through it. That's how what you call Border Community Development Agency came today. So how have we treated communities along the borders as a country? I mean, that's very important. And most of the times it becomes very complicated because, for instance, in Barutin Kayama, Borgu area, you have the same ethnic groups living on both sides of the border. So it's difficult to manage. From Kebbi to Sokoto to Katsina to Jigawa to Borno, along that border you have Hausa, Fulani community or Kanuri community on both sides of the border. These are international borders on both sides of the country. So how do you so you have that free movement. So what are we doing as a country to put, even if it's some minimum regulations, on knowing who is coming over and who is crossing on the other side? So if you ask me, perhaps we need to set up a border agency. A border agency that its basic responsibility should be the security of the borders. If you ask me, the Nigerian Immigration Services, are they effective monitoring this border? Do they have the capacity?
How about the customs?
No, you are talking about terrorism. What can customs do about terrorism? So they don't have that capacity.
So our borders are porous. That's what
with porous borders, and you have over 1,000 communities along these border lines. So if you watch ahead of US, when Trump said he was coming to Nigeria with gun blazing, one of the things that Cameroon did was to shut down their border. Chad also shut down their borders. Because you're going to have migration from Nigeria because they know, Trump is coming. Let's migrate. And I have had a trip in Ogun State, Ayetoro, for instance. Ayetoro. If you go there, you don't know when you enter into Benin Republic or when you are back to Nigeria. On both sides of the border, they are Yoruba people. I mean, there's no mark. The only thing is the guys on this on the Benin Republic speaks French, and the people on this other part speak English in terms of lingua franca. But Yoruba is a common language everybody speaks. The same farm, the same market, and you don't have anybody asking you where are you going to. So I think based on that report, the border lines, for it, go to the Lake Chad area, people on the other side and people on the part of Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and on the other part of Nigeria, they are the same. They look alike. So I think what we need to do is, can we have a thought around our border? The current Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, while he was Chief of Army Staff, was talking about border. And it became
Chief of Army Staff when he was Chief of Defense Staff.
Chief of Defense Staff, I'm sorry, when he was Chief of Defense Staff. And there was tension. So why tension? You're talking about securing your country.
Because it raised concerns around the border issues.
Basically. So what I think should happen, if we are a serious country, if we intend to end this, we need to prioritize the border. So if people are coming in and say we are coming to trade, check what they are coming to sell. When they are going back, check. Even though somebody will argue about ECOWAS protocol and all that. But the point is that the moment you don't prioritize your border, an example is the United States of America. Trump came, said, look, we need to close this border. He's arguing they had over 10 million people move across, and people who are coming in, whether it's fentanyl, all kinds of whatever, passes through that border. And the Homeland Security in the US is already cleaning it up. And there's a drop in crime. I'm talking about real data. So what have you done about our border?
But does such data necessarily reflect the reality on the ground in the case of the US that you mentioned?
Some of the data are collected by independent assessors.
Entities, yeah.
Take, for instance, this data on terrorism. I mean, it's clearly they are looking at incidents, they are looking at fatalities, they are looking at injuries, and they are looking at hostages. These are the three indicators that they are tracking. And it's an open source in terms of, I think they started it in 2007. What is it? Is simply every reported cases, at least you take it as a baseline.
Right.
Because there are cases that may not be reported, incidents that may not be reported. But at least you take it as a baseline. So, if I was to advise the government of Nigeria, security agencies especially, they need to take that data, this current report, go through it. It's not I think it's about 97-page report or thereabout. Go through it, tease it out, find out lessons there, incidences or reports, of other countries. Because when you call the Sahel is made up of about 16 countries, real core Sahel and non-core Sahel. Incidentally, Nigeria falls under the non-core Sahel, where you have states on Borno, you have Borno Yobe, Adamawa, Jigawa, Sokoto, Kebbi, Katsina on that axis. Okay, you have bandits in the northwest, where we share border with the Sahel, and the northeast, where we also share border with countries of the Sahel.
Right.
So what does that tell us? What we should prioritize? You could call it a Homeland Security Agency. Homeland Security Agencies in the US, incidentally, was set up in 2001. It was an output from the 9/11. That's what gave rise to it.
Right.
So what do they do? Very simple job to ensure that the United States is secured. You have over 16 security agencies in the United States, intelligence agencies in the United States. So sometimes people complain you have multiple agencies. No. When you want to secure your country, when you want to deliver results, you should do the ordinary. So we should think through a border security agencies. In the US, they have Coast Guard because they've realized that people will jump into the water to cross over into the United States. Coast Guard is over 100 years old. They have to set it up. They also have Navy. So the point is that what are we doing as a country? We have hefty security budget. Sometimes I ask, what happens to the budget? What exactly is it? Does it prioritize, or does it try to tackle, or how is it utilized? It's not having a budget, but utilization is also important. So we need to think out of the box. In fact, the incident in Maiduguri, it's a wake-up call, if you ask me.
Yes, it is.
Because in the last couple of months, there's been this debate. The local government chairman will say, I think is it the local government chairman in Borno or speaker talking about number of local government areas that are under insurgency, and a counter narrative will come in from Abuja and say, no, there's no such thing. We have taken over back or recovered every community. And some communities on the borders will say, look, we are paying tax. These guys are taxing us. Even in Niger State, I mean, there are reports of taxes.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the point is that either we live in denial as a nation and end up with a decay, or we face up the reality and say, look, hello, patriots, we've got a problem. How do we solve it? So I think we need to pull out of that denial state of mindset.
I think Juma has a question.
You know, the insurgency, let's say Boko Haram has been here with us for 17 years now. Individuals who we've all been counting and we know. Let us look at government now. How do you think the effectiveness of government in trying to combat this particular issue of insecurity that has refused to remove or that is always raising its ugly head?
Government. Who people's government? It's Nigerians. I think the mistake we make is that when we talk about government, it looks as if there's an angel from the outer space who comes in to form government.
Not really.
That's one. Plato wrote The Republic. That was a dialogue, a collection of the dialogue of Socrates, his master. And he indicated that every society, that the individual is a society writ large. So you could flip it. The government is a reflection of the society. Because the people we elect into government, they don't come from the outer space. They are people like us. They have blood flows through their veins.
Yes, they do.
They are brothers, our friends, our classmates, our colleagues.
Families.
Our families. That's one. So how does the average Nigerian react to these things? So however they react, that's how government reacts. But again, people who are elected to government positions first should realize that they have a responsibility. First, before God, before the Almighty, and before the citizens who have transferred their sovereignty to them and say, look, guide us, provide security for us, protect our welfare. That's why the Constitution says the security and welfare of citizens is the primary role of government.
Right. True.
That's the basic role of government. It's not to ask for a second tenure, third tenure, fifth tenure. That's not their role. Each time, whoever governs, you ask himself, how have I delivered on this remit of securing my constituency, my society, my local government area, my state, and my country? If you can't answer these questions, I'm not sure you have a moral right to say, vote me again. That should be the basic. Say, look, I don't have an answer. Because if you have an answer, you should be able to tackle it. Government has every power on earth to achieve whatever it wants to achieve. It can. It's doable. So it's a question of, first, having that political will. Second, having the right type of people in place. And then thirdly, implement it, deliver it, execute it. Somebody said recently, I think Sheikh Gumi, the government knows the addresses and the names of.
But is that the case?
Exactly.
No. So I think Gumi, take for instance, is a retired military officer.
Right.
I think he retired as a major from the army. Could he be talking from an intelligence point of view? A lived experience. I don't know.
So you are saying government should have taken that very seriously?
Okay, you are doing data. You are collecting biometrics of Nigerians. So it shows you know every Nigerian. Where they are, where they live, what they do, when they go in or when they come out.
But what if these individuals, these criminals are under the radar, for example? I mean, they're not captured in the central database. How do you
try to
run circles around them?
Try to. So the first question to ask now, the national identification process, why do you have it? what was the main reason that informs that decision to collect data? The VIO collects data, immigration collects data, NIMC collects data, road safety collects data. So virtually you have multiple data.
INEC and the rest.
So this data, do we have a unified database where you can punch and say this is a Nigeria? In the United States, every child who is born has a social security number. The social security number gives you, is your access to services, access to whatever you're going to do, so long as you're within United States of America. Even when you travel out of the US, every US embassy anywhere could be open to you. The moment you call your social security number, they will know when you left US, where you are, So what are we doing with all these multiple technologies we are deploying? What happens? Are we collecting it? I mean, the agencies, if you ask me, are collecting this data. Could it be for procurement? Because when you have a multiple data collection centers that produces no result, then for me it's just a hollow exercise. That's what. So we must look at technology. So how do we use technology to solving the problem at hand? In the US, if an incident happens, within minutes, they could say, we have an idea of who did this, these are his data, these are, I'm sure you've seen it, it doesn't take time. Even before technology, the FBI would have what they will draw an image, something that looks like an image, passed on to them by people who were around.
To identify.
For identification.
But you know what, Emmanuel, like you said, I want to call you. You keep comparing us with individuals, or will I say countries outside the shores of Nigeria, forgetting the fact that, do you think we have evolved to that particular level? Do we really understand technology, how technology can come into play here in Nigeria in figuring out all of these loopholes that we have in trying to curb this menace of insecurity?
Okay, the first question to ask.
High standard compared to
the first question to ask. It will shock you. In the UK, United States, Germany, and all that, the people running these processes are Nigerians. Have you thought about that? I have a friend in the US who told me.
Because they have a structure.
I have a friend in the US, a former colleague in a company I had worked for before, who told me all her life, her doctors, her dentist, whatever, pediatrician in the US are all Nigerians. The technology space, global technology space, Nigerians are playing big there. So, what is it in bringing them back here and say, look, we've got a problem, you need to show patriotism, can we get this sorted out?
How many Nigerians are willing to come back?
General Olusegun Obasanjo, as military head of state, brought in a lot of Nigerians. I had a story of going to Germany, and they told him there's this Nigerian marine engineer who is doing wonders here. He dragged him to Nigeria. That's Raymond Dobesi. Came back with him, put him in MPA to work with Alhaji Bamanga Tuku, who was then general manager of MPA.
Later national chairman of the PDP.
That Obasanjo did it as military head of state. So it's a question. It's like scouting
or poaching.
Scouts send out. You have what do you call it? The BKW's commission.
Nigerian Diaspora Commission.
The Nigerian Diaspora Commission. So that Diaspora Commission, incidentally, how did it come about? A friend of mine was a PDP chairman in one of the foreign chapters of PDP. And he said he was going to visit the speaker, Bankole, in 2008. So he said, I should give him a talking point. I told him, look, tell Bankole, because one of the things he said, look, the response time by the Nigerian embassy is very poor. So I told him, okay, I'll put in your speech, he should create a committee in House of Reps on diaspora. Bankole had lived in the UK and he became interested in that. The next day he created it. Abike was a spokesperson for House of Reps on media and publicity. They moved her to diaspora in 2008. That's when this happened. So change comes with an idea, and when you execute that idea, put it to paper, execute it, you could have some result. So Diaspora Commission, if I ask them data on Nigerians who are playing in different sectors as at today, do they have it? Take a look. I did a research paper on India diaspora and African diaspora. The question, the research thesis simply, how is it that India is effective and Nigeria and Africans are not? Very simple. If you go to the website of Foreign Affairs of India, they have number of Indian nationals in every country, including Nigeria. I'm sure if you drill it down, they will tell you how many are in Abuja, how many are in Sokoto, and the companies they have founded. Indians are leading in tech across the world. Apart from Silicon Valley, the next most effective ICT hub is in India. So what they did, simply pulled what they have in diaspora back to India. In diaspora remittances, India leads. India is at the top. The closest country to India, I think, is Mexico. Cannot go, they didn't have up to half of what India makes every year. You can, the report is on World Bank website. So how have we effectively integrated the diaspora? It's not reporting about, oh, Nigerians are involved in drug pushing. These are, for me, those things are minor issues. So how have you done it? Do you have a database of Nigerians in tech, in the US, in India, across the world? And how are we able to get them here to help? So technology is available. Even internally, technology is available. But the point is that, is there a political way to drive it, to get it done? It's like when we were talking about real-time upload of election result. And the debate was, I don't have network in my place. So everybody was busy saying we don't have network. But meanwhile, the political parties, as we speak today, the same National Assembly put in that same electoral act that every political party must have e-registration. So I'm asking, this e-registration, are they happening in the moon? Is that not these villages where you say there are no network? I mean, think about that. It shows what National Assembly lacked, or what the political class lacked, was a political will to digitalize Nigeria's election system. Because it will give two major results. They will lose that prerogative to determine the outcome. The outcome will be out of their hand. Because if you digitalize process, you have less of human interferences. Back to Maiduguri, it's unfortunate what happened, and it's also, from what you say, the governor is now saying, it means it's back to reality and say, look, we've got a problem in our hands. What do we do? Because the moment you admit there's a problem, the next step will be, what solutions do we have? How do we deploy them? How do we monitor them? How do we ensure full execution, not half-hearted execution? Nigeria has got this problem, if you ask me, may not necessarily be the security agencies, because they are working out their acts. I mean, they are working 24/7 to ensure the country is secured, but they get the required support.
I want to ask a question regarding this issue of required support. Of course, the president, before he left for the United Kingdom, even though we know he's back to the country now, had given a directive to all the service chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri, the theatre as it now stands. So we're going to talk about the propriety or otherwise of that directive, timeliness, necessity, and what have you. But the Chief of Defense Staff, General Oluyede, has also been there, and he has said certain things that have now become a basis for controversy. And those words were very clear when he spoke right there in Maiduguri, Borno State capital. Let's listen to that report.
General Oluyede, who was speaking to journalists after a closed-door session at the headquarters Theatre Command, Mai Malari Cantonment in Maiduguri, stated that ending terrorism in Borno and Yobe states requires a collective approach. He said citizens must take ownership of the security challenge and collaborate with security agencies. On the issue of modern equipment by insurgents, the CDS pledged that the Nigerian military would deploy advanced technology to counter and defeat them.
It's true that there's been an upsurge in attacks within the Northeast within the last 1 month. Well, it's not something that's new because it comes most times with Ramadan. But you know that we're doing our very best to checkmate this, and we'll continue to do that. But why I'm here today is to ensure that in future, this will not repeat itself. But for us to end this act of terrorism, the people of Borno State and Yobe State must take ownership of this problem. Because the bulk of the people perpetrating these heinous acts are from these states.
The president had earlier directed the immediate relocation of key military leadership to the region as part of efforts to decisively tackle the security challenges and restore peace following deadly attacks by insurgents that resulted in loss of lives and property. Top military officials deployed to Borno State include the CDS, General Oluyede, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Wade Shuaibu, and other heads of the armed forces. Uyi Agumofwegbe reporting for Global TV News.
All right, so I'm going to bundle two questions in one, right? If you like, propriety or otherwise of that directive by the president. It's not the first, and who knows, hopefully it's not the last. I mean, it should be the last, I should say. Because we had seen that with previous administrations, whether it was Goodluck Jonathan, whether it was former president, now deceased, Muhammadu Buhari, moved to Northeast. In fact, in the case of the former president, late President Muhammadu Buhari, he said right during his inaugural speech that now, the entire military paraphernalia will have to move to the Northeast and all of that. Now we've seen that with, President Bola Tinubu. That's the first question. Was it timely? Was it necessary? The second is, we just saw General Olufemi Oluyede saying that, look, if we must win this fight with regards to Borno, the people of both Borno and Yobe states must take ownership, because he says that those, for the most part, perpetrating these heinous crimes, they are from these two mentioned states. So what are your sentiments?
Well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a commander-in-chief. I do not have access to the intelligence.
But he has.
Because on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, he gets intelligence briefing. So I don't know what would have informed that decision. But again, often such decisions could just be for the optics. The optics of reassuring the community, the Borno community, that look, you have the full complement of the security of the armed forces present here. So this ragtag Boko Haram can't show their face here. Why we have the full complement of this Nigerian security system here. That's one. Then secondly, it could also be that the president, as a commander-in-chief, may have thought that the commanders have not been in touch with the theater and say, look, can you go back there, get on the spot assessment, and report back to me? But that of Buhari, General or President Muhammadu Buhari, on his inauguration day, the question is, how much of output did that directive yield? Just reflect. It's just less than, I think, about 9-10 years ago. That was 2015. So the question to ask, what imputes? Because essentially fighting terrorism would have to, it's 199% political will, if you ask me. An example is the United States. Donald Trump said, look, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And from day one, he began to do them. So that's one. So I think more of political will than optics. Then again, the Chief of Defense Staff is absolutely right when he say own the war. But again, what type of weapons does the communities have?
He says they know them, so maybe they can help the military with intelligence.
Again, the military or the security agencies should assure the communities of their safety when they share information. Because sometimes you have backlash. I mean, the reports of backlash has been there. So what they need to do is essentially to perhaps create an early warning mechanism where the community can send an alert and say, this is happening, or they have written us a letter. Because, I mean, in the media, we've seen reports of communities getting letter telling them we'll come and nothing will be done. Or communities raising, sending SOS and response do not come quickly. So somebody will say, oh, why don't we start perhaps setting up military formations in every community? But is it sustainable? Having military formation in every community. In Nigeria, we have 99,000 communities, depending on your classification in Nigeria. So it means we have 99,000 military formations, police formations, civil defense formations, and what have you. So I think what we need to do first is to accept that we have a challenge, security challenge. Secondly, to begin to ask ourselves, what are the options available to us in tackling these security challenges? Thirdly, how do we provide an enabling environment? In this case, it should come from political will, because leadership is also important. What's the body language of the leadership towards solving the problem once and for all? And thirdly, how do we build ownership, like the CDS has said? Because ownership is important.
Right.
Ownership is actually core. Core in the sense that the community can decide, oh, we have created this platform for information sharing, intel sharing, because it's the communities who have access to intel most often, because they are more in numbers than the security agencies. So can we set up trusted processes for intel sharing such that nobody will know who sent the information, nobody will go and report the individual or family members who sent this information? And then what is the response time when intels are shared? Because it's important when intels are shared, the security agencies, whether police, the army, navy, must be ready to respond at a snap of hand. It's very important. Because I've heard communities saying, look, we sent out SOS and in 24 hours they never came until our community were raided.
Good question. Well, I think there's so much we need to talk about this. But before we switch to our second discussion, let's talk about sponsorship of terror in Nigeria, because that's also a very strong strand or element we can't ignore. And I've spoken to experts like yourself who say until Nigeria and indeed these countries within the Sahel are able to, as it were, disrupt the sources of essential or critical supplies to terror cells like Boko Haram, like ISWAP, for example, we are not going to see the end of them.
Yeah, I think effort should be made. I mean, as of yesterday, effort should be made to cut off that source of supply. But again, the first question to ask, have we been able to identify source of supply? Because sometimes if you see the type of armory that the terror groups usually showcase when they are talking, you ask where did they get it? Rocket launchers, all kinds of sophisticated weapons. You ask what is the source? So I think cutting off their supply chain, it's very, very important, because the moment you do it, especially financiers. So have we gotten a handle on it? You now have a digitalized financial system that if you do a transaction now, someone can sit in New York and know that you have done it. So do we have...
Why the whole time you're bypassing the traditional system?
So how much of such intel have we been able to use? A big, large sums of money drops. You ask, what is this money meant for? Should we flag the account? Should we follow the money? So how much of it has happened? I mean, a few years ago, I think under administration of General Muhammadu Buhari, there were reports in the papers about such intel coming from one of the countries in the Middle East on transactions. What have we done in terms of following it up, ensuring that we have a closure to it? You know, sometimes when you don't have closures to issues like that, it has a way of discouraging even the people who are supposed to take actions, not to move the next step. So we must find a way of having closure on every issue. I mean, the pending cases, find a way of having closures on them, because it has a way of building confidence in the system.
Now let's tilt a bit now to, with all of this that is happening, what impact do you think terrorism have in Nigeria's economy, and of course foreign investment prospects? What do you think? What are the effects?
The key thing is that daily life is hard for people living in the terror infested area. I mean, if you go to Borno now, or go to Yobe, Adamawa, or you go to Katsina, Jigawa, Kebbi, Sokoto, I mean, you could see the impact. Or move down to Niger, just across there, or Kwara, Kayama, Barutin, Kayama, and those areas. The communities do not have access to their farms, or the Middle Belt, Benue, Plateau. When communities are unable to go and fend for their daily livelihoods, it means there will be deepened poverty.
Farming.
So the impact is there. So the economic and social and economic impact is unquantifiable. You are talking about investors. Investors who wants to come to Nigeria, the first thing you're going to do, most times investors have to take up insurance. The premium is going to be high because you're going to an area that is rated very high in terms of insecurity. So the insurance company is going to say, look, we're going to insure your staff, but the tendency for them to be kidnapped or not being unlived is likely going to be high. So you have a high cost of doing business in such an environment, because you're also going to have additional security. Apart from hiring a private security, you're going to go to the government security agencies and say, please, could you provide an additional security for my office? And it's not going to come cheap.
No.
So what it means is that the cost of doing business in that area or in that country or in that location is going to be high. And people would rather go to where they think is secure, because it means you have a higher risk in those areas.
Interesting. Well, we're taking a break now, everyone. Well, the issue of terrorism is an ongoing conversation, but what Nigerians hope for is an end once and for all. When we return, we'll do an X-ray of some kind regarding the recent trip of President Bola Tinubu to the United Kingdom and take a look at some of the key engagements that he had while he visited, of course, with the King and the UK Prime Minister. All of that and more shortly. Please do stay with us.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
All right, so as they say, it's been a long time coming, but today we know it has happened. The president has finally visited the United Kingdom, and Global Television, as always, has done an amazing work bringing you blow-by-blow updates on those engagements. Again, Emmanuel, let's talk about President Tinubu's visit to the United Kingdom. As always, sentiments are divided as to whether or not this visit should have happened. For many, the attacks, or if you like, the string of attacks in Borno should have been enough reason for the president to call off or postpone that trip. For others, this is the United Kingdom realizing that China is finding a stronger foothold by the day in not just Nigeria, but across Africa. And therefore, it's making what you might call a late-minute move to ensure that it continues to get a piece of the action, if you know what I mean. But in all of this, what's your candid, dispassionate assessment of this visit?
Well, I wouldn't want to be drawn into the debate on whether the president should have postponed his trip or not. No, I'm not interested in it for now. But clearly, Nigeria, you could say, is a child of the Britain, because prior to 1914, or when the first British businessman set foot in Nigeria in 1800, because it was a British businessman who came first. He had other people, they were looking for resources. And he met Portuguese, Spanish, and at a point there was a fight over who controls what. And he now wrote to the British monarch and said, please, could you send His Majesty's security to secure me? That's how Nigeria came to be. And at a point, the British government felt, look, we need to buy this country over from
the Portuguese.
This businessman, and they bought it. In fact, there's on the British, on the archives of the British Parliament, that the bill that indicated transfer of Nigeria is there. I have read it. So Nigeria and Britain, and from 1914, when the amalgamation happened, you had 3 different territories. You have Protectorate of Northern Nigeria, Protectorate of Southern Nigeria, and Colony of Lagos. On January 1st, 1914, they merged it into one united country. That's what you have as Nigeria today. So for Britain, this is their territory. Nigeria is still part of the Commonwealth. Even though over time, relationship has strained. Before 1985, you didn't need a visa to go to the UK.
Before 1985?
Yeah, it's visa on arrival. Because of the Commonwealth. In fact, as of today, most countries in the Commonwealth, you don't require a visa to go to the UK. Because of the Commonwealth. Nigeria is still part of the Commonwealth. So this visit is huge. But again, what is it? What are the takeaways? Because essential thing about visit is the takeaways, not the cocktail. For me, those things are just photo ops. They don't impact on. I mean, if you go and have a dinner with King Charles III, of what impact would he have on the life of the man or the woman in my village?
Exactly.
It has no impact. So, what are the deliverables from that visit? That's a key thing. From the British Prime Minister says they are investing
746 million pounds.
Yeah, in
Tin Can and
Apapa. Huge development. But the next question I would want to ask, Tin Can, Apapa, in 1968, when the Civil War broke out, 67 rather, when the Civil War broke out, they shut down what you call the Eastern Port, Eastern Corridor. You have 3 in Delta, Cocoa, Sapele, and Warri. You have 1 in Calabar. You have 2 in Port Harcourt, One and Port Harcourt. You have 1 at Oron, Akwa Ibom. There are about 7. Till date, in 55 years, you've not paid attention to them. Over 40%, I think 48% or thereabouts, of cargoes that come into Nigeria are the addresses where they open the containers. I grew up in Onitsha, so I can speak. I'm speaking from a lived experience. The trader imports the container through Lagos port, bring it to Onitsha. It takes about 3 weeks to 4 weeks. You open it at Onitsha because they don't open it in Lagos. And people will travel all the way from Lagos back to Onitsha Aba to buy it and take back. So why don't we activate the port in Sapele, the port in Warri, the port in Cocoa? Let them become functional. The port in One, the port in Port Harcourt, the port in Calabar. Between One, Port Harcourt, and Aba, is in a day you cover it, even if it's at a snail's speed. Lagos is congested. More people are inbound to Lagos, and the territory is not expanding. So why pay attention to Lagos when you have 7 additional ports elsewhere? Why don't you diversify the economy? Pool, so that urban pool, you can reduce it. Because we keep complaining of a congestion at the port in Lagos. So perhaps, is it the political economy of the ports? I mean, what we're going to leverage from it? So for me, one should have gone a long way to say, look, we need to reactivate the port in Sapele, the port in Warri, the port in One, the port in Port Harcourt. No discussion. It's been done. I remember over 35 years ago, I visited the port in Calabar. And if you go there, I mean, there's this debate, it's not deep. I said, what? There is a sea.
You're right.
The point is, and before 1968, we had 1 port, Apapa. So during the Civil War, they were diverting Nigeria's ships meant for Nigeria. They were betting at Cotonou, they were betting at Lomé, they were betting at Accra. That's why they built Tin Can. It was during the Civil War they built it. In 55 years, you have never looked back and said, look, wait a minute, what are we doing? You could have, and that Eastern Corridor ends somewhere in Maiduguri. And that's why the rail system, because in Nigeria's rail, you have the Western Rail, Western Corridor, and the Eastern Corridor. The Western Corridor gets from Lagos, Ibadan, Ogbomoso, Jeba, Ilori, end up somewhere in Katsina. And the Eastern Corridor begins from Delta and end up in Maiduguri. So you could have balanced development. So you could even speak to some of this unemployment amongst the youth unemployment. It can even, by the time you create economic activities around that corridor, you are going to have increased the weight on the road traveling from Lagos to Onitsha or Lagos to Aba will be lifted. The point is that the British colonial government was they were more patriotic. What they did, they created a rail system from one end of Nigeria, Maiduguri, to another end where you have a port. And then created another rail on the Western Corridor, ended it somewhere in Katsina. What were they doing? So granite, whatever is in that corridor, you move it. Whatever is in Maiduguri, you also move it across. Coal somewhere in Enugu. Just study the rail system in Nigeria. Because the intention was simple. Get these things to the port so that we move it to England, to Manchester. So I think the president should begin to prioritize the Eastern Ports Corridor. Very, very important. And then again, I heard, I think I read somewhere, the Minister of Education or so, I don't know how, was talking about education. You know, the British, one of their biggest export is education.
Right.
As at 2022 data indicates that 50 heads of state were educated in Britain. US had 44. USSR, that's Russia, has 16. France has 13. So the biggest export of Britain as at today, it's education. So how much of it came into that conversation? On a yearly basis, we spend millions of pounds sending our people to the UK because they've got world-class education.
Right.
So was there a conversation around that of bringing that to Nigeria? Then was there an issue around visa? Because sometimes the way the British behaves, I mean, you took resources from Nigeria that developed Britain, and now you're saying you're closing your border for what? Why would you close your border? You took resources from here to develop your country. That's a fact. I mean, you could go and check it.
Right.
It's a historical fact. So why close your border? What's the basis of border closure?
Let me take us back a bit. Now, with this renewed ties that we have with the British and all of that, how do you think that this relationship can be mutually beneficial and not one-sided, in your own opinion?
No, it's not for us. When you are going to negotiating table, have your ask list. I wouldn't call it a wish list, ask list, because that's your legitimate. These are your legitimate intentions you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
Hard negotiations. I understand the British Steel would be coming to Lagos as part of this new loan around port redevelopment.
Okay.
So we should be asking, we should have a clear wish list. One of the things I have learned is that if you're going for negotiation, have your ask list. Put it on the table. Sometimes you might not win all the time, meet halfway. But if you're not coming with any ask list, then whatever is thrown at you, you take it. So our people should say, what is it that we need in education? How do we need to collaborate with Britain? How do we need to collaborate with them on infrastructure? How do we need to collaborate with them on security? What's the collaboration around ICT? What's the collaboration on manufacturing? Even though UK is not a manufacturing country, because it's actually a service economy.
Right.
All the UK brands that you see might be on Harrods, on the fashions, on, you know, somewhere in London, but they are all produced in Bangladesh, in Vietnam, in India. That's where the productions are done. I've worked for an international organization and I needed to print a document. I gave it to a UK company to do. And when the mails arrived, the final printed copies, they came from India. That's the stamp I saw on it.
And it's supposed to be a UK company.
Productions do not happen there. It's in India. It's in China. It's in Bangladesh. Even the clothes that you talk about, this is a UK-made cloth. There's not one dress, not even button, is done in the UK. It's a service economy. So what we need to do is to begin to building collaboration. Just ask, what do they have there that I will need? Like I've told you, if I'm on that delegation, I should be bothered about education. Say, how do we attract world-class educational institutes in the UK? Because they've got some level of knowledge that will be very helpful towards our developing our knowledge economy. The world no longer, at the moment, is a knowledge-driven economy. So how do we get it? So out of over 195 countries, and you have 50 heads of state being educated in the UK, that's a level of influence. What it means is a UK PM can put a call to a vice chancellor and say, please, could you call that your alumnus? let's talk. That's influence. Part of the reason why the Soviet Union fell, the last Soviet president, Mikhail Gorbachev, schooled in the US. He was in the American Catholic University of Washington. So all they did was get in touch with his VC, get in touch with the Pope, who is the pontiff, and found a way of talking to. In fact, when he left office, he relocated to the US and was teaching in a university in America. Because your teachers would have an influence over you, somehow. So what I think what we need to do as a country is, when we are going for negotiation, we should have our excellence. This very, very important. We should prioritize it.
All right. I know Juma would like to ask a question, but let me we did a report on the there was a dinner really between the two heads of government, of course, the King and our President Tinubu, where both of them spoke very precisely about the relations between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. We just want to play that report for the purpose of highlights to hear what King Charles III had to say and the response of our President, Bola Tinubu, at that event.
The banquet in the historic Windsor Castle, west of London, saw King Charles and Queen Camilla host President Tinubu and his wife, First Lady Oluremi, as Nigerian officials, bankers, business people, sports stars, and cultural figures with Nigerian heritage. In his opening speech, King Charles described Nigeria as an economic powerhouse, saying it has not merely changed, but arrived.
As the connections between our nations deepen every day, so too do the economic ties. Your visit has provided the opportunity to celebrate the fact that Nigeria is investing in Britain's future as much as Britain is investing in Nigeria's.
President Tinubu stated that Nigeria and the United Kingdom share a vision of progress based on mutual respect and common values,
stating that he was the first Nigerian leader ever to speak at Windsor Castle.
Our two nations share a vision of progress and resilience. Today, we continue that journey, committed to building a future rooted in partnership, mutual respect, and common values.
President Tinubu has made less formal visits to Britain several times in his tenure, and the two countries remain major partners in trade, aid, and defense. London is also home to a huge Nigerian diaspora. Charles and Camilla had earlier greeted the president and his wife in Windsor, west of London, on a sunny afternoon as artillery fired salutes and Nigerian flags and Union Jacks fluttered on poles along Windsor's main streets. Uyi Agbomofwegbe, reporting for Global TV News. So I'd like to get your reaction to some of those things that were said, both by King Charles III and President Bola Tinubu. I mean, the king referred to Nigeria as an economic powerhouse. Would you say that was said cheek in tongue, or tongue in cheek, as they say, or it was a very sincere, heartfelt assessment of Nigeria?
Perhaps it could be he understands the potential of Nigeria. Nigeria is the largest market in Africa by population. By 2050, Nigeria would have been the third largest country in the world. I think we'll be about over 400 million. We would have outstrip United States. We'll overtake them. I think the data projections are India will be about 1.5 billion. They will be leading, followed by China and then Nigeria. This is based on the birth rate, the projected birth rate between now and 2050. That's in 25 years.
All right.
So such a country is huge. I think Africa on a whole would have been about 2 billion. At the moment, we are 1.5 billion. So if given the size of Nigeria, so whatever you want to sell is a huge market. In fact, that's why people still prioritize Nigeria despite the incidences of insecurity.
Right.
So all you need to do is increase your running cost, put it on the consumer, and then come in here, take insurance for your team, so as to secure their future or ensure the possible anticipated risk. So I think he has a good grasp of what Nigeria is. More so, over 60-something years ago, they ran the economy. And you still have the British High Commission here who on a daily basis, they have access to intel on potentials in Nigeria, on the mistake Nigeria keep making and what have you. So I think he meant it. But again, on our own part, how do we see ourselves? Because more importantly, how you value yourself is important. That's what gives you self-worth. How do Nigeria, in this case as an entity, value itself or view itself? What perception of ourselves do we have? That's also very important. But I hope that this visit will translate into visible outcomes, into measurable outcomes, into impactful outcomes. Let it just not be one of those. I read a report or the talking point on in 37 years. For me, that's not the real issue. That in 37 years, the first state visit. So what problem? State visit cannot put food on anybody's table, so to speak.
Right.
Like I keep referring to the woman in my village. State visit won't put food on her table if there are no measurable, impactful, visible outcome. So we should, Nigerians should indicate whatever they say the British government say they are going to do and say, look, Let's monitor it. More so, in 2003, under President Olusegun Obasanjo, the Queen was here. She visited Nigeria. She was here as the head of when Nigeria hosted Chogo. So the Queen coming here on a state visit, and you're going there. So which one is more? But I think, by and large, we should focus and prioritize on measurable outcomes from this visit.
Some Nigerians have mixed reactions when it comes to this particular renewed ties with the British. Some have a lot to say. Oh my goodness, we are trying to renew our ties with our former colonial masters. And they say there's more to it than meets the eye. What's your take on that?
Well, it depends on the argument they are making. I've heard people talk about that Britain perhaps is afraid China is here. But I'm not sure Britain has the willingness to put down the type of resources China puts in here. That's number one. China is heavy on infrastructure.
Yes, they are.
They are heavy on building that base infrastructure that propels development. And more so, credits from China it's not attached to any indicator around democracy, around transparency and accountability. They are giving you money and you pay them back. So China's presence here or in other parts of Africa, there's nothing anybody can do about it. I'm not sure they have the capacity to rival China's investment. At the moment, the largest economy is United States, followed by China. So they are not in the same league. But I think Nigerians are free to have whatever views they want to think about this current visit or renewed ties. I usually wouldn't want to say renewed ties because the ties has been there. The ties have never gone back. The only time the ties went back was in 1985, when the immediate past president, General Muhammadu Buhari, as he was then head of state, had gone to the UK to kidnap, to repatriate, to do a forceful rendition of Umaro Dikko.
Right.
So in fact, that was part of the thing that led to the imposition of a visa for Nigerians.
In the 80s?
Yeah, in 1985. That was why Britain had to, perhaps as part of security measures, to introduce a visa requirement for Nigerian travelers to UK. But I think the ties have been there. Perhaps maybe what they are simply doing is to put in additional investment. I don't believe the ties had ever gone back because all over Nigeria you have British-funded development projects.
Yes, true.
I've worked on a couple of them, over the last 14, 15 years and thereabouts. But the key thing is, even though the administration want to have on the renewed ties and all that, it's been an ongoing relationship. So what we simply have, if you ask me, is a new investment coming in from Britain. It's not as if you renew a tie that has broken down. Yeah, so if the ties had never broken down, I think the issue of renewal, it's simply a misnomer.
Incidentally, Kemi Badenoch is the leader of the opposition, the Conservative Party in the UK. Ironically, she's, if you like, torn between Nigeria and Britain. We've seen how in the last almost 2 years in particular, intensively and very vehemently railing against Nigeria and everything Nigerian. People say, with people like Kemi in the saddle, who many see as a potential prime minister, this thing we call renew ties already has hit a rock before it even begins.
Well, I think yesterday I was on another program. I spoke on that. I mean, there was a report in the Guardian newspaper that President Tinubu snubs Kemi Badenoch.
Yes.
So my question is this: in the British parliamentary system of government, anybody can become PM anytime. If on Monday Stemmer goes to the parliament and somebody gets him angry and he's can't manage his outbursts. And he say, I have dissolved the parliament and calls for an early election. The election can flip either way.
Right.
I mean, you could have the UK Reform Party or the Conservative Party comes back, or Labour Party retains the position.
The premiership.
Yeah, it happened in, I think with when Margaret Thatcher, she got angry. She wanted to pass through a particular legislation. The parliament turned it down, so she fled up and dissolved and resigned. John Major took over, and John Major, ended the tenure. And before you know it, elections came. The Conservative Party lost. They lost, and they lost big. So I think we need to be very, very careful in how we manage relationships when it comes to Britain, especially the British politicians.
Right.
Kemi can become prime minister anytime. All it takes is a snap election and her party wins the majority. She becomes the peer. So has Kemi done anything wrong? Not at all, not in my view.
Even with her criticism of Nigeria.
Kemi is a British politician. She's not a Nigerian politician. Kemi say, I'm British. So what's your problem? I mean, did India come to claim the India Prime Minister?
Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, Sunak. They did it. So we also should understand her position. We should respect her. She said, I'm British. So what's your problem? Or what's our problem as a country? Her name may be Kemi, but it doesn't matter.
And she says, yes, fine, that she's not Nigerian, she's Yoruba. She has been, she's been very...
Yeah. So for me, it's immaturity on her part to think...
To wrongly criticize her, that's what you think?
To think that she hasn't done anything. She said, I am Kemi Yoruba, but I'm British.
Okay.
So what's her problem? She stated her experience in Nigeria. She has the right to own her story. So why do we feel bad about it? Let's tell our own story. She talked about her school in
Lagos,
in Shagamu,
right?
Federal Government College, Shagamu. She said
how there was hardly water.
Yeah, he said it's a prison. That's to say her exact word. It means we have not been running school the proper way. That's, for me, she's sending a message to us. We go back and check, how do we run our school system? Our problem is how we process feedback. That's essentially, no matter the administration in power, I think the way we react to feedback, we don't react to feedback as a way of learning.
And making corrections.
So we just react. No. We should learn how to take those feedback, reflect on them, interrogate them.
And see how we can better improve what we do. Yes, quite frankly, that ideally should be the case. But these visits and the outcomes are just still unfolding as it stands right now. So hopefully we'll continue to engage with you to assess developments as we move on. We'd like to say a big thank you to you. Emmanuel Ozemena, who has joined us this morning to look at these issues regarding the visits, the very recent visits of President Bola Tinubu to the United Kingdom. And that's how we leave it here on this Salah Friday here on Global Morning. I'd like to say a big thank you to all of our viewers, reminding you once again that the views of our guests across all of our programs, including here on Global Morning, their views. I am Uyi Agumofwebe saying happy Salah to all of our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Thank you once again, Emmanuel Ozemena, for being a part of the program Global Morning, and thank you also for being a part of the program also. I am Jumai Manson, and from Uyi and I, we say bye-bye.